This is Margaret in Windsor. Peggy Ann Dempsey Childers was married name. It was the name given to me when I was brought from Buckingham Palace to Moulton, Alabama. The people responsible for my kidnapping was Joseph Kennedy, the grandfather to Caroline, and who's running for ambassadorship now. Obama's promoting, and that was her grandfather. Her father was JFK, and that was mind control in the patterns. The Warren Commission covered it up because it would lead back to my kidnapping. This is my father, King Edward VIII. That was the double that replaced him and married Wallace Simpson because my father was married to artist Georgia O'Keeffe's sister, my mom. So my mom was Irish Catholic, and the Kennedys didn't want anything standing in their way because that might have swayed people to care about the Irish care about the British and vice versa. So they had to take out my dad for because he's an honorable man. So they had to make him the bad guy. Here is 1939 when I was born. That's George the Sixth, illegal monarch who took down his own brother and kept kidnapping me with the Roosevelts, the Kennedy who was ambassador, and the Rothschilds and Rockefellers. You won't see me on the King George V was my grandfather, and Mary. You'll see that a lie about an imposter. Um, that they said was my father. So you'll see him marrying Wallace Simpson, which is a total lie. Then you'll see King George the Sixth, the brother who stole it and essence became agent for the Americans. They represent the Americans, and they're illegal. Um, so that was when Elizabeth and her so-called descendants. Look at them. Wow. Um, illegally came into power. Okay, and that's this is Little George, named after none other than the man that helped kidnap him. This is his beauty. This is Queen Elizabeth. Illegal, but she's there. Look at her finery. You want to see mine? Somebody gave me this. I have one other outfit, if you want to call it that, and a pair of shoes. Um, Now that I'm getting away, I was trying to show. I wrote about mind control back in '77, '78, while I was living in Marietta, Georgia. And I want to mention right off the bat there was. Let me show you this. This I wrote about mind control, and this was later that someone gave me this book. It's a page out of it. It's implantable biochips, and it's got Timothy McVeigh, and he always told everybody he had a chip in him put in by the military. Well, he's dead. Supposedly blew up the in Oklahoma City, the federal building. This is a picture of the illegal William, and say he has a chip in him. And the name of the book is Project Lucid. And the Lucid, Lucid, stands for the New World Order, the Beast, which is really chips and stuff. And I don't know anything about the end of time, but that's what it alludes to. And this is just a couple, there's a whole list of them, how would you know, of mind control murders. This is the Aurora, Colorado, and of course, James Home is being treated for mental illness with psychotic drugs, and mental illness has nothing to do with um, mind control, nothing whatsoever. So you're torturing the person. You took away his freedom to think, and this is just Eric Rudolph was one that he was on the Appalachian Trail some when he was trying to hide out, and anyway, he's in prison for the Olympic Park bombing and Alabama abortion clinic bombing. It's where the wrong person pays for the crime. They're programmed. They don't even know they're going to do it, so they don't have any free will to stop. But, again, I want to make it clear that the United States citizens did this to me and allowed this to happen, because I've been telling it since '87. And I wanted, no, I've been telling it since early 70s. I wrote the book in '77, '78, and I want to show this. You know what these are, the earplugs. It started out as simple as a handset. You can teach people at a low level they're not aware they're getting. You can teach them the Morse code. They don't even know they're getting it, and they're being programmed. So this has gone on since the Tesla early 30s, and Congress actually had a committee formed that was supposed to shut this down, and of course it never did. And now then, if you ask Congress about it, they'll refer you to a psychiatrist or something, and that's the whole thing in this. They've created situations where you need security in schools with the Sandy Hook and all that shootings, and now the Navy Yard shooting, where he tried to tell you, he reached out for help, instead he got none. If he had, they would send him to a psychiatrist, which is baloney. Now then, I wanted to go to back to 79, 80. I had a friend that was Dr. Robicher, Jonas Robicher, and he was head of psychiatry and law at Emory University in Atlanta, and that's the Center for Disease Control is there. He wrote a book. He had many books by Lippincott, but the last one, before he was killed, was The Power of Psychiatry, and that was published in about 79 or 80, well, 80 I would think, and he had my cases, some of them, in the last chapter of his book. Very decent man, and he was murdered using mind control. You won't find it in a pathology report. It'll say he died of cancer. I think that's what it says, but that can be made to happen to them. They can cure it with the Tesla, magnetic healing, the belief, hypnosis. It's all rolled into one. It's mind control. So he was murdered, and that was April the 1st, April Fool's Day, is when they put antifreeze in me. So my life was living hell, always. But anyway, what I wanted to focus on, I was doing the mind control book on mind control, and misuse of it by doctors, etc. And really, I didn't get into the agencies. I didn't know this back then. But I was doing the book back then about it, and I'm losing train of thought. It's 2 o'clock in the morning here. And of course, I didn't find out about my real name until '83 when I was in a political campaign in Atlanta, and replaced one of the doctors, by the way, that his plane had gone down, Larry McDonald. He was U.S. Congressman. Well, I was in the campaign. I didn't win. I was flown out to Larry Flint's on October the 16th of '83, And anyway, I'll leave that there. He tried to help. Um, so I'm not pulling it together here. Um, I wanted to focus too, though. I'm not skipping around here, but this was one of the main focuses. Why all this about the Kennedy, Caroline? I mean, her father, her grandfather should have been put in prison. Here, Obama, who's from Kenya, or they say Hawaii, but anyway, um, Kenya, where they just had the shootings at Westgate Mall, and by the way, from back in 77 when I told about mind control, you can understand how advanced it is now. So you've got mass people can be mind control used on them, as it was at the mall, and I'm sure in a lot of other wars of recent, they programmed their own people, the Americans, their soldiers. So the VA is full of them and don't know it. But the Israeli, the one I wanted to focus on too, is the Israeli elite um, group was sent in to Kenya, to the mall, looking like the good guy. And people don't ask, where are the British? Kenya was a British colony, and that's where Elizabeth was when she got the news that her father, George the Sixth, had died in, I think it's 53. Anyway, the United States took over Kenya and Rhodesia and gave Rhodesia a name change. And they did that by bringing in a lot of money from the United States and other things, looking good, you know. They installed Mandela. And Andrew Young, the Reverend that was with Martin Luther King, which you can put two and two together with the mind control shooting, James Earl Ray, or however it turns out, whoever really shot him, it was a mind control and done in patterns. But anyway, Mrs. King, Reverend Young, all knew about mind control, and they knew about me and my real name, that I'm the real monarch. When they sent all of Andrew Young, was appointed, by the way, ambassador to the UN by none other than Jimmy Carter. Um, while he was governor in Atlanta, I was a few miles away in Marietta doing the book. How's that? Now I want to skip to what I just heard about. You're suddenly seeing Chelsea Clinton. Chelsea got to go to Oxford, Rhodes Scholar. You know what I did? I worked as waitress to take care of the cold-hearted, and I'll bleep myself, that I grew up being told she was my mother. She'd killed her twins. So you got twins in the patterns throughout this. By the way, Mrs. Bush has gotten together. This is Laura. I just saw a snippet of it on TV, but she's gotten together, I believe, some other first ladies, and they're all off to South Africa. They're going to save it. They're going to take in MDs and medicine and all drugs and everything for AIDS, etc., etc. AIDS is what I started to tell about in the beginning, where Robert sure was at Emory University, and I was out researching Center for Disease Control. This is where AIDS began, not South Africa, and that's where the patterns began. And you try to tell somebody like that, back then, and they wanted to lock you up. So they're all going to rush in now to South Africa that they've taken from the British, just like they took me, the monarch. They took everything from the Brits. By the way, Laura Bush had twins, for whatever someone wants to make of that. And I guess the Chelsea Clinton went to Rhodes. I want to tell that because I finished high school by taking care of this Dempsey woman who'd killed her twins and abused me that you can't believe when I was taken from a loving mother and father. So I hope I'm not rambling too much here because I'm in so much pain. It's 2 a.m. in the morning here. So I guess I've said about all I wanted to say. Okay, and I guess I'll say bye right at the moment, okay? And I hope photograph you can didn't get my nose and that you can hear it.